today we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Kat Bonner. She's actually a WWA student, so the Wanderlust Wealth Academy, who purchased her first real investment property in New Hampshire. I am so excited for you to be on the show today, Kat.
Thank you for having me, Olivia. I am honored.
I love it. I love it. Well, so Kat, before you joined WWA, before you really got into real estate investing, what were you doing? Where were you in life?
I'm trying to think back to when I actually joined WWA. God, every time I say that, I feel like
it was
WWE.
I think it was February, March, right? Because it was close to when you were finishing up school and sometime around that time.
That sounds right. So I was working part-time and finishing up grad school. And then I know that where I was at in life, I was planning on going on a cross-country road trip through the summer, while also kind of looking for a full-time remote job. And that's what I remember from 4 months ago.
I know. It's so funny because I remember us hopping on a call and you joining WWA and you were like, I'm not going to start for a while because I want to go be in a van for the next few months or whatever. I was like, girl, do you? But then suddenly you came out of nowhere and we're just like, actually, I think I'm going to go buy a house right now. And so you got in the coaching and we went head on. So I guess what were you doing before? What did you study? What do you work in now full time?
Yeah, so I got an MBA in sports management. So I have an athletic and entertainment background. Now I still do work full time. I have my real estate business on the side, other side hustles. I have a grease business on the side. But yes, to still work full time, I work for a youth athletic company in Boston.
Okay. Awesome. So I kind of want to get into the real estate side of things a little bit. So why did you decide and why did you think real estate investing was something that was for you?
Yeah. I guess I first kind of learned about it probably a decade ago. My brother is actually a real estate developer. So he buys and flips and renovates houses. So he's older than me, thankfully, so I kind of just learned from him. But I've always loved HGTV as a kid and House International. And I was like, ooh, this sounds like fun one day. And then kind of, as my brother's business started to take off, I kind of, started to really, get interested. I was more of on the lending side in terms of I'm just going to invest in a property and give these funds and not be more passive. I got my first real estate license, I think in 2019 in North Carolina. That's where I'm from. And then I was living in Tennessee for a few years. And then I got my real estate license there. And it was just kind of thing where it's okay, well, for now I want my day job, but it's something to fall back on and it's practical, right?
Yeah, no, I love that. So what is your purpose for real estate investing? Why did you even really want, how do you envision your life in the future?
Yeah, definitely long-term wealth, right? For the most part, can't really go wrong with real estate as a general rule of thumb, right? And I would rather put my eggs in the real estate basket rather than put my eggs in I'm going to spend all my money on a brand new car basket.
Right.
Yeah. So it kind of it made sense, right? At the end of the day, people need somewhere to live, whether they're going to buy or rent. That shelter is a human need.
Yes.
So I was okay, Kat, don't complicate it. Just break it down.
Well, that is the thing. It's people are always going to need a place to live or to stay. That is plain and simple. Yep. And that's what I love so much about real estate. It's so tangible, right? It's not like the stock market, which is kind of just in the ether, Yeah. Don't get me wrong, investing in the stock market is still good, but I just really, really love real estate.
Exactly.
Okay, so talk to me about when you first found me and joined WWA. I remember at first you were kind of looking for duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes all over the place. It was kind of and I remember you getting really frustrated about it because you weren't able to qualify for these bigger properties. So I guess tell me a little bit just about that process and how you were able to pivot.
Yeah. being a second time homeowner, I guess that's the proper verbiage, right? I owned a house in Tennessee and sold it. I always said like my biggest regret, once I learned about the advantages of, buying a duplex or multifamily, those aren't really very common down in the South. So I was like, okay, like I'm living in New England. Like I am dead set on buying it. I'm going to do it right this time where like I don't have to have roommates and like I don't have to be a landlord roommate type of like that type of scenario, did that in Tennessee, didn't want to do it again. So I was just kind of like dead set on that. And, the lending was difficult. Like, yeah. So I kind of was just like, okay, like what is my main priority? Is my main priority living for free or cheap? Is, my main priority having a fenced-in yard for my dog? Is it living in Massachusetts? Is living in New Hampshire? And I kind of just had to explore my options and just go with what made sense.
Completely. No, completely. And also like, I really want to touch on the fact, like you're doing this as a solo single female with like a single income. And I think, there's so many people who listen to this podcast and who follow me, right? Because I'm the same, right? Like I did it myself, right? I got my first properties. I started investing in real estate all by myself. And that can be really intimidating, right? Because so I think it's going to be really important to also just mention like how much are you actually making and were you making when you got qualified and purchased your first property?
Yeah. So that's a very good question. So when I purchased a property in Tennessee, I was making way less, bought it in 2020, right? Didn't even matter at that point. I put down 20%, whatever, right? With this property, my down payment amount was pretty strict. So the qualification terms were like, okay, like it was very like cut and dry, black and white type of situation. So my salary was is $60,000. And that's what I used for qualification terms, right? No other outstanding debt. So it was still then like, I was like, oh my God, like I cannot believe my mortgage payment is this much. Like this is insane for like, I was just so surprised for like purchase price of a house and I'm not putting down 20%. Like that's a big mortgage.
Right? Yeah. So let's actually go over that so people know, like, because I think it's so important to kind of bring up numbers sometimes. Mm-hmm. So like, how much was the property? How much did you put down? And how much is your mortgage on it versus like how much you're making in rent? And I know we're kind of hopping around a little bit here, but since we're here now.
Okay. I had to think back. It was only like a month ago, but I feel like it was forever.
Yeah.
Okay. So the purchase price was $335,000. I put down 10%, I think.
Yep.
So I can't do math right now. The loan amount was
but probably total about 40 something.
35,000 was my down payment. Yeah. I think my loan amount was like 305,000, something like that.
Yes.
A weird number. What was interest rate was 6.375. Went conventional, so I had PMI. And mind you, this is with great credit. My credit is like a 780. So I was still struggling because I didn't have any wiggle room with the down payment. And a lot of houses up here, thankfully I lucked out and I didn't have HOA fees. But adding in HOA fees, property taxes, but my mortgage out the door, I think it's $2,428 and some change.
Yep, that sounds about right. Yep. And so so actually, before we even get to how much you're renting it out for and all of that, like what was your initial strategy when buying this property? Because, you are dead set on a duplex, dead set on a triplex, are finding that they're really freaking expensive up in New Hampshire, right? Like, and it just, we weren't going to qualify for something like that. So how did you pivot? And also, how did you use WWA to kind of make that pivot too?
Yeah. So I definitely started with WWA and the resources that you gave in terms of the lenders, right? Kind of talking to a bunch of different people because I was like, I honestly don't really know what I'm doing in terms of that. In terms of financing, it can be kind of tricky. So my lease was coming to an end. And at that point, I had an in-person job in Boston, right? So I knew I don't want to stay in an Airbnb for a month and then have to buy. There was just too much moving. So So I knew, I was like, all right, like ultimately, like I want to close before my lease is up because it's just going to be less of a hassle. So I kind of used that as like the framework. And then was solely focused on, duplexes, single or multifamily, sorry. Talked to a few lenders and like looked at the market. I was like, I just don't love these locations. Like the commute was too far. So the commute was a big thing, even though I have a hybrid work schedule. Traffic up here is insane. And I was like, I'm not really going to commute 2 hours one way, just be able to afford a cute duplex that I think I want.
Right.
So that's kind of how I just started to explore other options.
Okay, so do I have something exciting happening for you? So if you have been trying to get into real estate investing, but you find yourself stuck in analysis paralysis, maybe you just don't know where to start or what your next steps are, this event is going to be for you. Now, I do not do this often, but I am going to be hosting a free, and I mean 100% absolutely free, live masterclass on September 17th on how you can get started investing in real estate by the end of 2024. Because y'all, we are already halfway through the year, people, okay? Approaching Q4 at this point, and there is so much time for you to make this real estate investing goal of yours a reality. I also think this is going to be my last free masterclass of the year. So this is going to be the last opportunity that you will have to come and learn from me live and get all of your questions answered by yours truly. Now it is time for you to get into the room with people doing exactly the thing that you want to do. So if you want to come to this completely free live event, DM me the word freedom on Instagram or click the link in the show notes to sign up there. And I will see you there. I'm so freaking stoked. Now let's dive back into the show. Yeah, no, I love that. And I literally remember you coming to the coaching sessions and kind of freaking out, which is totally fair because this happens with literally everyone. Trust me, it is not just you. This is everyone that comes in and they're like, I thought I could, qualify for anything. And this is why I tell y'all, go get pre-approved. Figure out how much you can actually qualify for because we've got these lofty pie in the sky numbers in our brains, right? And then when we actually get pre-approved, our lender's like, nope, you can actually not qualify for that. Or for some people, it's like, actually, you qualify for way more. But I remember, we did a lot of mindset work with you too, just to kind of like calm the nervous system and just basically remember that it's all going to work out. And it did, right? Like it's crazy, but it all did work out. But kind of coming back to that grounding and understanding, knowing your why and knowing that you had the tools and the resources to figure it out and it was going to happen.
Yep. It was just a matter of trusting the process. I was like, I might be dead set on this type of property and like, it's okay. And I realized with a lot of like, especially multifamilies, some of them were either 2 units were occupied and it was a 2-unit. And I'm like, I really don't deal with kicking somebody out. And then you deal with somebody who has been in there for a 20-year tenant and their rent is totally under market value. You can only use 75% of it. And then you have some where they rent out the garage. Well, renting out the garage doesn't count as rental income. So the financing, I was just like, I was like, this is just too stressful. Like, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. No, completely. And so you ended up pivoting. To a single family home. Now, what was your initial strategy when buying the single family home?
Yeah. So it's actually a condex, which is weird.
Oh, yes.
No, that's okay. Yeah. Those things don't exist down south. My strategy at that point was location. Well, obviously location and budget, right? So I really wanted a single family. Once I kind of went away from the, duplex multifamily situation, but to get what I wanted, I was going to have to be farther from work in terms of a single family. So it's like, okay, let me look at like my other options. Basically, a condex looks like a duplex, but it finances as a single family. So I was like, okay, I guess this is like the best of both worlds. Because it was originally built as a single family and then transferred, whatever the word is, to converted. Transported. Sorry. Converted to a condex. So I guess it just made financing a lot easier. So yeah, that's what I settled on, something right over the Massachusetts-New Hampshire border.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. I love that. And so you said that your mortgage on it was 24 something. How much are you actually renting it out for now? And what strategy are you doing? Are you doing long-term, short-term, midterm rental?
Yeah, 3,200. So it's about an $800 per month profit. I
Love,
was like,
that's fabulous.
I was like, what?
That is fabulous. That is, and that's as a long-term rental. So completely unfurnished.
Yep.
That's
And your
amazing.
rental. And I was looking at like the
Amazing.
going rate. I mean, considering the house needed work, it's a good price. Like while it's getting renovated, and then when that tenant moves out, I plan on renting it for at least 3,400, 3,500. Like I'm
That's
thinking, like,
amazing.
because that's like the going rate. Because
That is crazy.
I was like, I can make $1,000 a month. So then say I get a 2-bedroom apartment in Boston and I live with somebody, my portion of the rent could be $1,000, then I just live for free. And I was like, wait.
Exactly. Well, that's what I love about real estate and house hacking in general. Like there's so many different ways to house hack. One of those ways is to buy a property, like, and maybe you live in it for a little bit or whatever, and then you just rent it out. Yep. And that extra income can cover your travels. It can cover your rent. It can cover whatever. And so that's another way to do it. And you were able to do it by putting 10% down, which is huge, right? You're not coming out of pocket $80,000. You're coming out of pocket more so $30,000, which is way more palatable. So that's amazing. Like and especially doing this on a single income as a solo female, that's huge.
It's scary. And I was like, all right, but I was like, if you do it right and you get a good tenant and you do the screening, right? Like at the end of the day, like you have to trust the process. And right now, no, I'm not living for free. So when I looked at like how much I was cash flowing from that property and like I got, I rented a studio apartment closer to Boston for the same like lease term as my tenant did. So then I was looking at how much I'm paying for that. I was like, no, I'm not living for free like I could if I was in a, multifamily, but I'm living closer to the city. I'm saving less on gas. I'm driving on tolls, like less anxiety because I literally hate driving in Boston. So it's like, even if I lived in the house that I had just bought and had roommates, I'm paying what I'm paying now to live alone and I don't have to deal with roommates.
Yeah, 100%. When that's the thing, like so many people get so caught up when they buy their first investment property. They're like, well, I guess this has to be my forever home. Like, no, it does not. Like you can always move. You always have control and the power to move wherever you want. Like,
exactly.
And that's what I love about real estate. It gives you that ability to, it gives you that flexibility. I think everyone here, or who knows, has heard my story of how I just picked up and left earlier this year and moved across the country just because I felt like it, right? Yep. And that's the beauty of owning real estate. You can choose.
Exactly. And the good thing about that, right? Like, I mean, obviously, if I finance a property, in Wyoming or whatever, right? Like at that point, it's going to be a strict investment. But, who knows, like taste me. At the time, it could be purchased as an investment property and I could end up living there, right? This house was purchased as a primary residence because 100%. I had intentions of living there. And then this is how life panned out. And I was like, all right, I'm here for it.
Yes, I love that. I love that. So I guess for you, before you joined WWA, why did you join the coaching program? Like, what was your reasoning there?
Yeah. Just to be around like-minded people. At the time, I didn't even know it was all women. So I was like, that was even I went to an all women's school for undergrad. So I really got obsessed with these little like all women things. I'm like, ooh, girl power. Like,
I know, it's so funny because it's not even like at the beginning, I didn't intentionally be like, this is only for women. But then for whatever reason, I mainly just attract women. And then I did make it only women for a period of time. Now it is open to everyone, but in general, I still just attract mainly women.
So funny. And I'm like, look, you're feminist. I just don't tell people that because then feminists get the wrong vibes. And I just like a little basic old white girl. And I'm like, no, okay. So I just thought that was funny. But it's always nice to have a group of like-minded people, especially when you're doing something that's, quote unquote, not normal and like outside status quo, especially being from the South. People like this women, let me rephrase that. Women like this is not very common.
Yes.
So
completely. No, I 100% agree with that. And like, what would you say has been the most beneficial part of the program for you?
it's a good question. I'd say having a variety of resources, like have the calls that are like with other WWA girls. And then it's like the Q&A where you get to like pick your brains. But then you have calls with like, lenders, bank, I don't even know, other real estate related humans.
Yes.
But then you have like the little chat feature in the community, but then you have the actual course. So I love that like what is the word? It's great for your nervous system, right? You can be a visual learner or an audio learner or what are the types of learners? You get what I'm saying. But there's something.
Yeah, tactical. All the types.
Cool. So
oh my gosh, I love
the
that.
pieces of paper of the course. You could print it off and be like, here you go.
I love that. And so for you, for your real estate journey, what are you working towards right now?
Right now, I'm honestly, the biggest thing is like mindset and like getting like, okay, like trusting that like I can own a property. I can have a tenant. I can cash flow. I can have my own rental. I can live where I want to live. Like working out like mainly like the logistics, the financials, how you want to do your lease, just the little like nuances while I'm getting started. Kind of just relaxing and taking it all in. And then once I can get my ducks in a row, get through the WWA course, get more financials together. I definitely did the finances real unorganized this time. And I need to hire a
That's okay. And that's the
assistant.
thing. You're not going to get everything perfect on the first property. Like that is totally okay. And each thing you do, each step, you start making improvements for every single thing. So that is totally okay.
Getting like organized. I'm like, I need to hire somebody to help me because I'm just a very like, I get impulsive and I'm like, I want to do this now. And so just kind of taking it all in, enjoying the city life. Like, I'm like, I don't even have to drive that much. Like,
I love that. And so from a real estate perspective, like what are some of your big goals over the next 5 years?
So in a perfect world, girls, don't steal my idea. I want a Taylor Swift theme, short-term rental Airbnb in Texas, probably Austin because it's like a little Nashville. And then I lived in Nashville and one already exists in Nashville, according to my Google research. One does not exist in Austin, another little music city. And Taylor Swift's brother's name is Austin.
Yes.
So purchasing a short-term rental there, Taylor Swift Airbnb. I want to purchase a long-term rental. Probably, I'm looking at Florida. This next one, it's going to be that one would be both of these would be strict investment properties, financial wise. But the next long-term rental, I actually want to purchase tenant occupied. That is the ultimate goal. That's just peace of mind, especially if I don't have the intention of living in it. Because if it's not tenant occupied, I don't really want to deal with the hassle of being on the hook for a mortgage and looking for tenants. Really just don't want to.
So fair.
And
so fair.
And then I want to buy land in Costa Rica.
So freaking phenomenal. And also not in an ideal world because this is just what is going to happen, right? This just is. There's no question. There's no doubt about it. It's going to happen just the same way that the sun rises every single day.
Yep. You're right.
I love it. And so wait, what?
Manifest it.
Yes, exactly. So I guess just a last question here, Kat. So if anyone is on the fence of joining WWA, what would you say to them?
Rip the Band-Aid off and do it. Like, it's not scary. People are like, I can't afford it. I'm like, look, take out a personal loan. I'm sure you have $1,000 sitting around, sell some stuff on Facebook Marketplace. Like, add up the amount of Starbucks drinks you buy each year. You probably spend $3,000. Like, let's be honest.
Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it.
I don't want to know how much I spend in Starbucks. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but
I know I'm not really Starbucks girly, but I do spend money on other stuff. So I can't really say much.
also tax refunds, people. I think people forget sometimes how much they get back in taxes. And I'm like, well, if you do them right, you really don't have to save for WWE.
Yep. That's so true. I love this. Well, this has been such a great conversation, Kat. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with? Or, what if they wanted to reach out to you and just understand like how you got that property and your strategy? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, they can reach out to me if they want. I don't really know what words of wisdom I have. I will do my best. And obviously, like, I know that, a lot of people, they might have a 401k or a spouse, like another income, right? And, I inherited some, financial assets that have allowed me to, purchase real estate. And I always just try to have that mindset that like, I'll always be thankful, always be grateful. Yes, I wish that person was still in my life, but that's kind of the catalyst of like, I want to have a successful future for myself and my future family and children if I have them, because, this person who is deceased was able to set me up for success. So always be thankful. There's always a reason why things happen, and you can do whatever your heart desires.
I love that. Amazing, Kat. Well, this was so wonderful. And I know your story is going to inspire so many.
Thank you. I had so much fun. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for listening to Wanderlust Wealth Show. Now, don't forget to follow the podcast, or if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. If you love this episode, it would literally mean the world to me if you shared this with a friend or a family member, or literally like anyone off of the street. Like right now, go ahead, share it so you don't forget, or post it on social media and make sure to tag me. I love seeing what you're listening in on and what you resonated with, and I'm just so freaking thankful for you. I'm so freaking excited for you. I love you. And don't forget, life really doesn't have to be hard.